Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. Morning dew clung to the leaves of the vegetable garden. Tuna bent down, her hands trembling slightly as she checked the damp soil. It had rained for days, and yet she still found peace in watching the first sprouts of green return. Somewhere behind her, baby Henry's soft laughter echoed through the small house. Far away, another woman, Alex's mother, stood at her window, her gaze heavy with worry. She had seen her son with a woman, someone she didn't know. Since then, an unease had grown within her like a shadow beneath her heart. That morning, she made a decision that would quietly change everything. The wind carried a faint echo of footsteps. Someone else was already watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The truth is just beginning to unfold. The rain had finally stopped, leaving the earth damp and breathing. Tuna tied her hair, packed a few vegetables, and whispered to herself about taking Henry to the nun's nursery. Her life was quiet, modest, predictable, kind. But somewhere, the rhythm had changed. That same morning, Alex's mother, Mai, dialed a number she had promised herself never to call again. "Come to the old shop," she said, her voice low but trembling. Across town, Dewey, a man with a weary face and sharp eyes, received the message and understood immediately. When he arrived, she slid an envelope across the table. Inside, photos, addresses, a small advance. "Follow him, take pictures. I need to know who she is," she whispered. Dewey nodded, but as he stepped out, he caught a glimpse of something strange. A black car parked across the street, engine still running, a camera lens barely visible through the tinted glass. Someone else was already following. Meanwhile, Alex moved through his day with calm precision. The wood factory buzzed softly with the sound of saws, workers calling one another across the yard. "The new shipment arrives by noon," he reminded his manager, Miss Lan. Beneath the steady rhythm of work, his mind wandered, back to the small house at the edge of the village, to the woman waiting among rows of green onions and sunlight. When dusk came, Alex drove there. The path was muddy, but her smile was enough to erase the day's exhaustion. "You're here," Tuna said softly. "I missed you." He sat beside her, their shoulders almost touching. "I've thought about it," he murmured. "It's time. I'll take you and Henry to see my mother." Tuna froze. The kettle hissed faintly from the stove. "No," she said. "Not yet. Your mother, she won't accept me." Alex took her hand. "Then I'll make her understand." Outside, behind a low fence, Dewey crouched among the shadows, camera ready. But even as he took the photo, he felt a chill. Another shutter clicked nearby, faint, unfamiliar, not his own. For the first time, Dewey looked over his shoulder. The car from earlier was there again, its lights off, its presence heavy. He whispered to himself, "Who else wants to know about them?" Night had settled softly over the town. A single street lamp flickered outside Tuna's small house, its light trembling in the mist. Inside, Alex and Tuna sat close, the quiet between them filled with the hum of crickets and the rhythmic breath of baby Henry asleep in the next room. Alex spoke first. "My job is stable now," he said gently. "I've arranged everything. Tomorrow, I'll take you and Henry home with me. I want to talk to my mother, to tell her the truth." Tuna's fingers tightened around her cup. The steam rose between them, curling like uncertain smoke. "I'm scared," she whispered. "She's kind, but she's from another world. What if she doesn't see me the way you do?" Alex smiled faintly. "Then let her see your heart. That's all I need her to see." Outside, Dewey stood near the hedge, camera hanging loose by his side. He had done his job. Pictures taken, faces clear, proof gathered, but something felt wrong. From the far corner of the street, he saw the same car again. Its headlights flashed once, then off. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Stop watching. This isn't your business." He froze. Whoever was behind that lens wasn't someone else wanted to know about Tuna, or perhaps to destroy her. The next morning, Alex returned home. His mother waited in the living room, the soft clatter of dishes echoing from the kitchen. She looked calm, but her hands trembled when she poured tea. "Mom," Alex began, his tone careful, "there's something I've wanted to tell you for a long time." He told her everything. About Tuna, about the child, about the quiet peace he felt whenever he was near them. Mai listened without interrupting. When he finished, silence filled the room. Finally, she looked up, her eyes shimmering between pride and pain. "You've grown," she said softly. "If she makes you happy, then that's enough for me." Alex exhaled, relief flooding through him. He smiled, bowed his head slightly, and said, "Thank you, Mom." When he left the room, Mai's expression changed. The gentle mother faded into a woman clouded by unease. She walked slowly to the window, the tea growing cold in her hands. Tuna, the name repeated in her mind like an echo she couldn't silence. She turned to her phone, opened her messages and typed, "Find out who else is watching my son." That night, as Dewey tried to delete the photos from his camera, he noticed one image he hadn't taken, a picture of himself standing near Tuna's house, seen from afar. Somewhere beyond the village, a different story was beginning to take shape. And at that moment, everything changed. The following days blurred together, sunlight and rain weaving across the horizon like an indecisive promise. Alex worked longer hours, preparing new shipments, unaware that invisible threads were tightening around him. Every step he took, every visit to Tuna's house, left a faint trace. Footprints in the mud, whispers caught between fields. Tuna, though unaware of the danger, began to sense something strange. One evening, as she drew water from the well, she noticed the reflection of a car's headlights flash behind her. Too far to be visiting, too close to be passing by. When she turned, there was only wind and the sound of distant dogs barking. She pressed a hand to her chest. "Maybe it's just my imagination," she murmured, though her voice shook. That same night, Mai received a report from Dewey, incomplete, hesitant. "They're just living quietly," he said over the phone. "She's not what you think, ma'am. She's kind. She's trying to raise her child alone." Mai said nothing. The silence stretched, long and heavy. Finally, she replied, "You've done your part. I'll handle the rest." But her voice had softened, not with forgiveness, but confusion. She couldn't decide if she was protecting her son or betraying his trust. The next morning, Alex arrived at Tuna's home, his face lit by a rare joy. "She agreed," he said, taking her hands. "My mother didn't forbid us." Tears welled in Tuna's eyes. Disbelief and relief intertwined. For a moment, everything seemed clear. The world, once uncertain, bloomed with possibility. She laughed through tears as baby Henry clapped his tiny hands, but fate wasn't done with them yet. That same afternoon, as they walked together toward the main road, a sudden click echoed from the trees, the unmistakable sound of a camera shutter. Alex turned sharply, scanning the area, but saw only swaying branches. Tuna's hand tightened in his. "Let's go," she whispered. They didn't know Dewey was standing nearby, his own camera lowered, eyes wide. "That's not me," he muttered, realizing someone else had been there all along. A cold wind swept through the valley, carrying with it the scent of rain and secrets. Back at home, Mai couldn't shake her unease. She stared at an anonymous message sent to her phone. "You're not the only one watching." For the first time, she felt fear, not of losing her son, but of not knowing who wanted to take him away. That night, Alex returned to his mother's house. "Mom," he said softly, "there's something strange. Someone's following us." Mai's heart clenched. For a moment, she wanted to confess everything: the investigator, the plan, the mistrust. But then she looked into her son's tired eyes and couldn't. She only whispered, "Be careful. Sometimes the past doesn't let go easily." Later, as Alex left, the rain began again. Slow, deliberate. Mai stepped outside, the downpour wrapping around her like a confession. She looked up at the gray sky and whispered, "If love is meant to protect, why does it feel like I'm destroying it?" Inside her house, her phone buzzed one last time. A photo appeared, Alex and Tuna, unaware, smiling under the rain, and beneath it a single line of text: "You can't hide them forever." The message vanished before she could reply. In that quiet storm, something within her shifted. She realized love wasn't control. It was the courage to let go. The storm passed quietly that night. The world, rinsed clean, smelled of soil and rain. Morning sunlight spilled through the curtains of Tuna's small house, gentle, golden, like forgiveness. Baby Henry stirred in his sleep, and for the first time in days, Tuna smiled without fear. Alex arrived soon after, his shirt damp, his eyes tired yet calm. He brought no flowers, no grand gesture, only the warmth of someone who had finally made peace with himself. "I talked to my mother," he said softly. "She understands now. Maybe not completely, but enough." Tuna looked up, uncertain. "And the people who followed us?" He shook his head. "They've stopped. Whoever they were, they disappeared after that night. Maybe it was just meant to remind us how fragile peace can be." She nodded. In that fragile stillness, she realized love wasn't something to be protected. It was something to be trusted. Outside, the wind brushed through the trees, scattering droplets of rain like fragments of memory. Far away, Mai stood on her balcony, watching the sky bloom with light. The phone in her hand buzzed with one last message. No more surveillance. She didn't know who sent it. She didn't need to. For the first time, she understood that love wasn't a chain. It was the courage to let your child walk their own road, even into uncertainty. Alex's laughter drifted through the open fields as he lifted Henry into the air. Tuna watched, her eyes shimmering. For a moment, the three of them formed a fragile constellation. Imperfect, but real. Mai closed her eyes and smiled faintly. Perhaps that was what love had always been. a series of imperfect choices that somehow led to grace. The camera that once spied on them now lay abandoned in the grass, raindrops glinting on its broken lens, a silent witness to everything they survived. And as the wind rose again, it carried a whisper, not of fear, but of release. Maybe love doesn't end, it just changes shape, from worry to peace, from control to trust. The story faded with the sound of rain returning, gentle, rhythmic, infinite.
Khoảng cách giữa hai thế giới tình yêu dễ lấy về siêu trẻ và tiểu nam, người mẹ đơn thân phải đối mặt với ánh nhìn xấu từ những kẻ theo dõi, trong khi mẹ Alex thầm bên người điều tra. Tính bè cũng trở thành ngọn rối cho một âm mưu lặng lẽ khác. Khi sự thật hé lộ, nỗi sợ tan dần. Cùng cơn mưa, Alex chọn tình yêu, còn Mỹ Anh chọn buông bỏ. Giữa bình minh sau bão, họ nhận ra tình yêu không còn hoàn hảo, chỉ còn đủ dũng cảm để tin.